Hello everyone, Shooty here, and today I have a triple feature blockbuster movie extravaganza review. So I guess I'll get right into it. I might do the rambling part at the end of the video. Who knows? So the three movies are all vampire movies. And they are Nosferatu, uh, Bela Lugosi. Almost. God, I'm fucking retarded. Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Lost Boys. Um. So yeah, I just was in a vampire mood, and it was October, so I figured why not watch a bunch of vampire movies. So we'll start off with the first one, which is Nosferatu. um, Nosferatu is a movie widely unknown by our generation, other than a one-off joke from SpongeBob. That's just how old this movie is. Actually 100 years old now. That's not a joke. It's legitimately the 100th anniversary of this movie was this year. It was made back in like 1922. It's a silent film. Uh, Basically, the backstory of Nosferatu is um, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which started as a book, has been around for a little while now, and it's pretty popular, obviously, because it's just a fun vampire book and all that. So someone decides, well, they want to make a movie based off of it. So they made Nosferatu. The problem is they didn't go to the Bram Stoker's estate, and they didn't license it out. They didn't license out the story or anything, and Nosferatu is in essence basically just Bram Stoker's Dracula, um, told in a movie format. A lot of the character names have changed, but that's mainly because this movie was made in Germany, I believe. So the movie is uh, basically a bootleg of a book. So there was a legal case brought against the makers of Nosferatu by the Stoker estate, and the courts ruled that they had to destroy every copy of Nosferatu. And they did, except one copy survived. Thankfully, one copy survived. And it basically, Nosferatu ended up existing as bootlegs and just oddball copies for the longest time. However, it's been 100 years, so that means the trademark is finally up. That means anybody can make anything Nosferatu related. So now you can purchase a copy of Nosferatu on Blu-ray. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could before, but uh, probably through different publishers and stuff like that. But now it's in the public domain. Now the movie exists as something that anybody in the public can. It's basically kind of like Sherlock Holmes. How Sherlock Holmes is now a public domain. Um, it's now in the public domain, so anybody can make like a Sherlock Holmes movie. Same with this. So it's that's the backstory of Nosferatu. I'll get now into the actual plot of the movie. Um, like I said, it's basically the plot of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the book. Um, you got Count Orlok, who's this vampire in Transylvania. He's buying a property in London. Some guy who works for a real estate company goes to go finalize the sales for Count Orlok. He goes to his castle. Orlok comes back to... It's a different country, but I think it's Germany, but he goes back to that country, and he's doing vampire things. He's looking for the love interest of the real estate agent because he wants to marry her. He wants to... And that's kind of like the whole reason why he's going to London, is because he wants to... He's looking for a love interest, essentially. That's just about the gist of the plot. The movie itself it's definitely a product of its era. Silent film, again, there's no talking in the movie, it's all music, and when there is dialogue, it's the thing where they take a still frame, and it's like black it's like black with like text on it, and that's like the gist of what kind of dialogue you're going to get in the movie Nosferatu. It's not you're not going to have like grand speeches or any of that. It's very much a visual experience. The special effects, what little there are, again, product of their time. They do some some really hokey stop motion at some points. It's kind of fun, just because it's like old and all that. It's interesting to see like just the way they. It's just like, if you're watching this movie, you're not watching it because it's a masterclass film per se. You're watching it because it's a part of film history. Not saying that it's a bad film. It's just not by today's standards, but it's not a very like visually interesting film. Although things will happen in it that will entertain you. Nosferatu's makeup is excellent in this movie. And that's about all I could say about it. There's just not a lot there to unpack. It's just a fun little piece of film history. So I'll slide into the next film, which is Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie. So, actually, back to Nosferatu real quick. The ending of it is it's the most disappointing part of the film was the ending, ironically, and it's that Count Orlok dies because it's like not because like a vampire hunter or whatever kills him. It's because he just forgot to check the time before he left his house, and he ended up like in the sunlight. So that's literally like how he dies, and that's it. It's just like very anticlimactic ending. So we'll move on to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Obviously based on the book. However, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie, it takes a big inspiration from Nosferatu, ironically, when it comes to the story. In fact, they refer to vampires as Nosferatu sometimes in Bram Stoker's Dracula. They the plot is basically this. It's the same as. It's basically the same as I said before with Nosferatu. It's the same as the plot for Bram Stoker's Dracula, the book. You have Dracula, Count Dracula, who he wants to move to London because he's looking for some kind of love interest or something along those lines, feeding grounds, that sort of a deal. So he, a real estate agent goes to his castle. Dracula discovers his love interest there, and he goes to London to go get that love interest. Um, he ends up retreating back to his castle at one point because of the vampire hunter Van Helsing, and then he just like he ends up getting killed by the love interest. That's like a very very brief version of the plot, I know, but it's mainly because I feel like the movie should probably be watched if you really really want to like get the entire plot out of it. But the general gist of it is like it's basically Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you have read the book, this is the story of the book for the most part. A couple of caveats being the love story in the book is not as prevalent as it is in the movie. The movie, they decided to make the love plot more interesting and more prevalent because it plays a lot into Dracula's very tragic character. Dracula's basic, like Dracula is a very tragic. He's a tragic monster. He's not a he's a sympathetic monster. He's bad. He's evil, but you understand that where that evil comes from, and you empathize. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for, or sympathize with his like sad story. Basically, in the beginning in the movie, it's like way back in the Crusades, Dracula's wife killed herself because she thought he was dead. So he makes a pact with the devil to become a vampire, and so he's like just basically forced to um, live on Earth forever, and and then he discovers Wilhelmina, who looks like his former wife, and he just kind of gets in his head that if I can get to her, I can make her my wife again. Um, it's very much like just this like tragic story, and like I said, he gets killed by Wilhelmina in the end. Um, it, um, Gary Oldman sells Dracula's role really well. Really well. He plays both the old and the young Dracula. Probably one of Gary Oldman's best performances. And this is a star-studded cast because there's like Anthony Hopkins is in it. Um, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Robin Hood Men in Tights and um, the Princess Bride. Um, he he's in this movie. Keanu Reeves. A lot of talented actors came into this film, and a lot of the actors really stand out as just like playing really good roles. Um, Anthony Hopkins Van Helsing is probably one of the best characters. Like, it's probably my favorite version of Van Helsing. Just the way he like talks, like the way he talks about his job as if it's like normal everyday activities. Like there's a part where he goes to the doctor and he says we have to go to Wilhelmina's or not Wilhelmina. We have to go to, and he says the name of some character's grave. We have to go to her grave. I need you to bring your tools. And the doctor's like, why? So you can like cut out her heart? And Van Helsing's like, no, no. I'm gonna stab her heart and then I'm gonna cut off her head. It's like very matter of fact when he delivers the line. Um, just a lot of like Keanu Reeves. Like I've heard people say that this is not one of his best roles, and I didn't really think he was that bad in the this movie at all. I don't think he was a bad. I don't think his acting was that bad. I really think that I've seen a couple of Keanu Reeves' other roles where he's like not that good of an actor, and I don't think I agree that this was one of his lesser roles. Um, yeah, but it's very like the whole story. It's fun, but it's like fun tragic, and this is like a very like quintessential vampire movie for sure. Um, the special effects in it, almost everything is practical. I think there's two instances where they used CGI, but the rest of it is like all. It's not even CGI actually. It's like overlays on the film. They didn't even. It wasn't even a. They didn't even do like CGI at all. It's just all practical effects. So it's all really cool because there's like parts like where when they're in Dracula's castle, Dracula's shadow's not doing what Dracula's doing. His shadow's like doing its own thing, and that means that it was. And because they're not doing like that with like computer effects, what that means is that there literally was another actor wearing a Dracula costume off screen, standing in front of the light just to pretend to be Dracula's shadow, and that was like a makes it like a lot of fun, very cool. Um, I would definitely recommend this one as a good vampire movie for spooky month. And now the last one we're going to talk about is The Lost Boys. Another 1990s or 1980s vampire movie. Um, The Lost Boys, plot-wise. So, the plot of Lost Boys is this recently divorced mom and her two sons moved into her father's house out in like California, and um, the the basically they move into this town, and there's vampires in the town, and the oldest brother gets he's like hanging out with the vampires because he doesn't know they're vampires, and then they turn him into like a half vampire, and then that's kind of like when everything snowballs into them trying to find the head vampire so they can kill him and reverse the older brother's condition, because that he's only a half vampire. You can turn him back to human if you kill the head vampire. So that's the very general gist of the plot. Um, basically, uh, man, where do I even begin? This story is just kind of fun because it's very like Joel Schumacher made it, I believe. He's the director, and I feel like something happened behind the scenes in production for Lost Boys because it feels like two different movies. Um, it feels like they started off with a very serious vampire movie, but then at some point, they crammed in some like Disney Channel bullshit in there, and it somehow makes it the movie just kind of like a goofy comedy. I don't understand. Like, I feel like something happened behind the scenes because basically you have the plot with the older brother, Michael, and the vampires. One of the head vampires being Keith, played by Keith Sutherland, which is probably my favorite role he's ever been in. Is um, playing David or Michael. I forgot because my head is full of fuck. um, basically, they're like the vampires are like punks in this movie, and I love that. And Keith Sutherland just plays this like really excellent punk. And the movie, it's like that's like the angle the movie takes is you kind of have like this character who is he's kind of like without this like father figure, and he falls in with the wrong crowd, which are the vampires, and they kind of want to like suck him into that world, and then he's like he rejects the idea that he wants to be in that kind of uh world, and that's kind of like the plot where like what Michael's whole plot line is his character arc But then you have the little brother and the frog boy and the frog brothers. The little brother and the frog brothers are like, they're like, God, it's like, so the little brother goes to a comic book shop and there's these two kids who, if this movie was made in like the 2000s, these two kids would be, yeah, these two kids would be like airsofters. That's the best way I could describe it, because they're wearing like army surplus all the time. Like they always got like airborne patches on and stuff like that. And they're like, and they're like, they like to think that they're like hardcore vampire hunters, which as the movie progresses, you find out they actually don't know much of anything about vampires. They're just kind of like idiots who read too many comics. Um, but somehow they knew that there was vampires. Um, so they're like, their dialogue though, it feels like in the comedy that these characters have, the three younger boys, the little brother and the Frog brothers, it feels like something out of a Disney Channel TV movie. It's very like, it's very like cheesy, not really funny jokes, and they splice these scenes in with the other stuff, with like the older brother scenes, and it feels like the little brother stuff was like an afterthought, and it feels disjointed from what's happening in the rest of the movie. It's weird, but it's somehow, I don't know. I enjoyed it for some reason. I thought it was funny, but funny like corny. It's not like funny haha. It's funny corny. Um, but that's like the gist of like what's going on in the movie is you got all these characters basically, it feels like they're trying to like find, I guess it's like they're trying to find like a place where they fit in sort of thing. And for the younger brother, his thing fitting in is with it's with some dorks at a comic shop. And then for the older brother, it's it's kind of like I said, it's basically the story of a kid without like a real like guiding figure in his life, who's about to fall in with the wrong crowd. I guess that's like the best way I can describe the story in this movie without going super deep into like the plot details. Um, it's the movie's a lot of fun. The special effects in it are, you know, they're limited, but in a good way. They don't do too many. Actually, they don't really even ever have like transformation between like human and vampire. They'll just like cut to a vampire character when they've turned into a vampire, and the makeup in this movie is excellent. When I was a kid, it terrified me. The vampire makeup, because it's so like, I think it's because like they're wearing like contacts and then they have like prosthetics on their foreheads, and it doesn't look quite like it makes them not human enough to like make them freaky looking, I guess. But it's like fun makeup work. The the vampires bleed glitter. You'll notice after they kill the first vampire, like he bleeds all over them, and then when they're running out into the sunlight, they're covered in glitter. the the Even like the flying sequence, they don't show them flying. Instead, they just have like the camera swishing through the air, and I guess you're supposed to assume that it's like a first person perspective of the vampire characters, and I think it works real well actually, because it's kind of like leaves it to your imagination like exactly what it looks like when they're flying, like if they're floating or if they're like uh if they turn into bats or something like that. Um, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Special effects and just overall, like, the whole movie's fun. I would definitely recommend it. I'm gonna like put these movies on a 1 to 10 scale, and I would say Nosferatu is a 7 on the 1 to 10 scale. It's not bad, but it's not a movie that I would say you've watched because you're looking for a fun vampire movie. You're watching it because it's a piece of cinema history. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a solid 9. Definitely a 9. I would highly recommend that. And Lost Boys is an 8. Maybe a 7.5. Probably between there. I would definitely have to say between there. It's not a bad vampire. There's nothing like super bad about the movie. Just the again, like I said, the Disney Channel level of writing makes it feel weird. Makes it feel like more like a dark comedy than a spooky vampire movie. But otherwise, the movie works out real well. I guess that's all I have to say about those movies. I might not make another one of these for a little while because I'm going to focus on trying to put together the Call of Duty video. It's probably going to be one big video, or it might be several big videos. I'm going to try my best to work real hard on those. So it's going to be a bit before I make another one of these. So I guess that's all I have to say. Take care.